research that I'm doing is trying to use big data sets and experimental methods to learn about how to better deploy human resources in order to deliver learning outcomes in the developing world, specifically in Rwanda.
So my research is involved in a class of proteins, which are these small membrane proteins. They're called G protein coupled receptors, and they have vast and important and diverse roles in both human health as well as disease.
If I were to describe my research in a single sentence, really it's my lab and I together, it's a team-based sport. We study how the brain does mathematics.
Our research tries to address what we think is a trio of problems in the education sector. So that trio of problems is both a challenge of getting adequately skilled workers to move into public service. A second problem is the motivation of teachers. So how do we make sure that the teachers who are there, how do we make sure that those teachers are incentivized to deliver the kinds of outcomes that we really care about? How does the government send a signal about what teachers should be working for and reward that effort? And a third challenge we try to address is the challenge of teacher turnover. So how do we match the right teachers to the schools where they're going to be engaged and motivated and are going to stay in a system that has a hard time reallocating teachers historically to fill gaps when a teacher leaves the classroom?
Scientists are really good at studying the same thing, and in part because we're constantly learning more and more and more as we dig further and further and further. My work is on this class of G protein coupled receptors. There's about 800 of them in the human body. For all of those well-known, appreciated ones, there's that many more that are underappreciated. We found this class of receptors to be highly expressed in both the liver and the kidney, and now we're really working on trying to understand what it's doing there. So one of them in particular recently localized to a subset of the kidney that's involved in processes maintaining calcium levels in your body. And in the liver, we've actually found them to be in a very small subset of cells that we believe are regenerative cells. Finding this one receptor suggests that maybe this plays a key role in this process of regeneration. And it's really kind of an exciting finding, because if we can understand the pathway by which this protein works, then we might be able to harness that information to potentially leverage this for more drug development and things of that nature. So we're really excited about that direction.
Now, math, of course, is rather complex, not just in sort of content, but how our brain goes about doing it. The human brain has to kind of make it up. It has to piece together all these different brain systems. And so math actually can be a platform for understanding how the brain sort of achieves these more complex cognitive tasks, things that really didn't exist, that kind of humans invented, and we're like, that's really useful. How does the brain do this? And that's essentially what we try to study and what we try to understand. We don't just use neuroscience. We use a whole range of different approaches. For some individuals, doing math is more than just doing math. It's about addressing their fears, getting past their anxieties. If we can make it less not fun, reduce that negative emotional experience that you have, well, that will hopefully improve quality of life right then and there. In addition, hopefully we can improve math skills at the same time, because people are less likely to be avoiding things because of all these terrible feelings that they have about math.
Georgetown has been a great environment for doing this kind of work. I've been really lucky in terms of the students whom I've had the privilege of working with and my chance to learn from them. We have students from all around the world, and those students bring a wealth of experience, both at the undergraduate level and at the master's level. The freshness of perspective that they bring to this, it helps keep us always asking new questions about what's happening and what we observe, and continue to question our own work.
All science is always seeking to sort of expand human health and disease and knowledge, and that is really knowledge for the greater good. We are uncovering new information and developing new tools that future generations of scientists will use, but it also hopefully will be used by the general public. My hope is that we ultimately will impact the greater good of society by these small contributions to our scientific knowledge will then expand our understanding and then develop future therapies down the line.
One of the things that we really need to be able to do is study this phenomenon, in particular math avoidance, math anxiety, and how these things unfold, the decline of math skills as a function of avoiding them over time. That means if we want to understand it, we need to study this. That's one way that the Magis Prize can be super helpful, is that it's going to help us cover some of the costs of doing this sort of longitudinal research so that we can really obtain some really high quality data. And the hope would be that if we can improve math skills, can we make people feel better about doing math?